You ever read a sentence that just stops you in your tracks? One that kind of makes you feel instantly seen? Well, today we're going to break down one of those sentences. We're going to deconstruct it to get at the psychology of what makes communication really work. Let's dive in.
Okay, here it is. If being around people leaves you exhausted, this isn't introversion. This is psychology. Just let that sit for a second. How does reading that make you feel? It's more than just words on a screen, right? It's like an invitation. It just immediately makes you curious and validated.
So yeah, that's the big question we're tackling. Why is this one sentence so incredibly good at grabbing your attention and making you want to learn more? It's not an accident, you know. There's a really powerful, kind of elegant structure at play here, and we're about to pull back the curtain and see exactly how it ticks.
Okay, so it turns out the power of this hook really comes down to two core psychological principles. We're going to walk through them one by one and really get into the anatomy of what makes this thing work.
First up, we have what's called normalization. This is all about taking something that might feel like, I don't know, a personal quirk or maybe even a flaw, and reframing it as a totally normal, shared part of just being human. Let's dig into what that really means. So, the key idea here is this. Normalization moves the spotlight off of you as an individual and puts it on the big, collective experience we all share. It's basically saying, hey, it's not weird that you feel this way. This is something we all go through. And just like that, the weight of any stigma or judgment, it just kind of lifts. And check this out. This is where you can really see the switch happen. The word introversion, well, it can feel like a fixed label, right? A box that you're stuck in. But psychology? That's universal. It applies to every single one of us. So the sentence does this masterful little swap, trading a limiting label for an inclusive scientific idea. And this is the emotional payoff. By normalizing that feeling of being drained after socializing, the hook doesn't diagnose you, it validates you. It makes you feel seen and understood in a really fundamental way. And that, right there, is an incredibly powerful way to build trust with someone.
All right, on to our second principle. And this one builds right on top of the first one. It's relatability. So if normalization is about making you feel understood, relatability is about making sure that message can reach pretty much everybody. This chart is the perfect way to see the little magic trick that's going on. I mean, think about it. If the hook was only about introversion, it's talking to a pretty specific group. But by reframing it as just a general psychological thing, it's suddenly talking to anyone who's ever felt wiped out after a party or a long day of meetings. And let's be honest, that's basically all of us. And that's really the heart of it. The message instantly becomes way more inclusive. It widens its appeal like crazy. You don't have to identify with some specific label to connect with the idea. The door is just thrown wide open, and a much bigger audience can now say, oh yeah, that's me! So we've picked it apart, we've seen why it works. Now for the really practical part. How can we use this ourselves? The cool thing about breaking this down is that it gives us a simple, repeatable formula for making our own messages more effective and, more empathetic. Here's the formula. It's basically 3 steps. 1. Start with a specific feeling. Maybe something that gets labeled a lot, like stage fright. 2. Reframe it as something universal. So instead of stage fright, maybe you call it a natural adrenaline response. And 3. Normalize it. Remind people that feeling is a sign they care, not a sign they're failing. You see, it's a small shift, but it changes everything. At the end of the day, it all comes back to this one idea. The most powerful, the most effective communication isn't about slapping labels on people or putting them into categories. It's about tapping into that shared experience of being human. The whole goal is to make the person you're talking to feel understood, not just defined. So I'll leave you with this to chew on. Think about it. In your job, with your family, with your friends, what's a common feeling or experience that you could reframe? How could you swap a label for validation and build a stronger, more real connection with someone?